How and when did you meet Rudy Ray Moore? And
Very first
the
time.
very first time,
The
and
very first time I met him was downtown L.A. when I was doing 48 Hours, and I heard somebody wrestling with like a security person. Somebody said, "Get your goddamn hands off me!" And I looked up, oh shit, that's Rudy Ray Moore, and that's the first time I met him.
and the movie came to you in terms of a project when? How soon after that?
I think I got the idea to make the movie maybe 16 years ago, and yeah, that's what.
Yeah,
16
and
years.
16 years later, here we are.
Yeah, well, it wasn't quite that simple, but yeah.
How and when did you come onto the project, and what has it taken to get this film made?
Well, it was a very interesting process because Larry and Scott and I were together. We pitched another movie. It was a kind of an IP blockbuster type movie. We all walked out afterwards. John Fox was with us, and we said, hey, John Fox had worked with them on this years ago at DreamWorks. He says, why don't we do something interesting? And we all said, yeah, let's do something interesting. I knew that Ted Sarandos was, really excited about doing something with Eddie. And so it was kind of like, let's go to Netflix. We all get ready. We go to Netflix. The guys, they're brilliant pitchers, the best pitchers you've ever heard. They could kind of take the Dodgers to the World Series, but I think they'd rather write. But they're great pitchers. We're all ready to go. I say, Eddie, can you come to the meeting? Eddie goes, of course. We go into the meeting, and Eddie comes in character. He comes in as Rudy, and he does Rudy for 12 minutes, and Ted Sarandos looks at me and says, we're done. And the guys look at me and go like, we don't have to pitch? I go, yeah, just write.
And back to Eddie Murphy. So this is like the little engine that could, both in terms of the story, my words, and in terms of the project. So how did that carry out on set and building the team? How did you kind of get this going and going and going?
John is the one that got it put the team together and got it going and going like that. John Davis, John Fox.
Very good.
Yeah, they're the ones that quarterbacked it.
So I don't want to butcher their words.
Bad socks, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We try to do it. I don't want to butcher the words, but there's a line that from the movie is the man who wrote that word. And so we're going to go to the men who wrote the word in the film.
Actually, we refer to the Academy. At the Oscars, they always say.
They always say, it starts with the word. Right, Divine?
So we got you two going. So give us a sense.
Don't forget that.
So how long, Scott first, how long have you been attached? And when the team brought it to you, where'd you start with this story? And where'd you want to avoid not going?
You're sort of your questions are pretending this is like a normal movie that happened in a usual kind of way. This is a very unusual film.
Eddie met with us back in like 2002. We got excited. Then Eddie got us in a room with Rudy. Rudy told us a lot of his stories, and Rudy was very excited a movie would be made. We tried to sell it, and we got blank stares. And then it went away.
Yeah, because this was like right after like Pluto Nash or something. So, and then you're in the studio talking about, now I want to do a Rudy Ray Moore movie. They were like, oh, so you've lost your mind completely.
Yeah. Well, I think also that executives would like watch the Human Tornado trailer and say, what the hell? They would hear all the profanity, and I don't think they realized we wanted to write the sweetest movie that says motherfucker 300 times.
Yeah, so basically nothing happened for 15 years.
Okay.
And then like John was saying, we're meeting with the Johns, and Larry and I were coming off People versus OJ, and so it's like, in this business, you're hot, you're cold, you're hot, you're cold, and when you have these hot moments, sometimes you can make stuff happen.
Okay.
You can use a chip.
Yep.
And so we talked about it, and John called up Eddie, and we threw it together with Ted at Netflix.
So when did you come on? And just give us a sense when you came on board the project.
Well, we only had about 6 weeks to prep. And so we were rushing around and really looking at Human Tornado as our template to do this Rudy Ray Moore Dolemite look. And in speaking with Eddie, and because we were making a film about making a film, we didn't want to go too far into his arsenal of looks because it wouldn't make sense. But there was enough in Human Tornado to get the job done. So even now, looking back, I can match up these looks in the film with some real Rudy Ray Moore stuff, and it's delightful to see that it does really match up. So it took us 6 weeks to prep, and we prepped as we went, and we built a lot of shoes that were very uncomfortable, platforms, and then we finally built a pair of sneaker platforms for Eddie to.
She made me some custom-made platforms from a sneaker because I was in so much pain every day, and you saved my life.
Oh, I'm so
I
honored
don't know
to
if I
have
would have
done
made it.
so.
I came close to quitting the movie 2-3 times.
But it was a long, hot summer, and we tried to make Eddie and the rest of the cast and Lady Reed here as authentic as possible and as comfortable as possible.
Ms. Randolph, who is Lady Reed to you, and how did you go about bringing her to life?
Lady Reed to me, I would say, is a prolific woman that, at that time, when you listen to her party albums, when I first listened to them, I was like, whoa, this is a lot. But when I then continued to listen to it, I was like, no, this is actually, she's ahead of her time. Because though it was explicit or sexual, she was actually telling women in that period where we didn't have rights, sometimes it felt like, to our own body. You know what I mean? Sexual rights at that time were feeling as though our bodies and black women's bodies were being exploited. She was literally instructing women of how to be independent, how to say what you want and what you need, and to stand by, and that it's okay. Like, she was giving you this like play-by-play handbook. And so when I discovered that, I was like, oh, okay, so this is a whole, you know what I mean? This is a whole nother thing. This is not stereotypical at all. This is a strong woman who, from her experiences, learned how to turn lemons into lemonade, so to speak. You know what I mean? And so this is a woman who has gone through a lot, but I think at the end of the day, what makes her so unique and special is she has, as Rudy says, there is a light in her. And he meets her at a time when that light is dimmed, but she knows deep down it's never lost. But she meets someone who is real and sees her in a difficult moment, but she's never broken. But sometimes we just need someone to believe in us and breathe life into us and just say that, I see you and you can. And once he does, it just jumps. You know what I mean? Like, and I really like how that moment is edited. At first I was like, well, that seemed a little fast to go to, but I realized no, because she was already all those things. That's what she needed in that time in which they first met. And then it was like, you lit something in her and there's no turning back now. You know what I mean? And so it's so beautiful. Like, they're going on the road, they're doing this Chitlin circuit, then boom, 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 she's doing movies. And she doesn't really know, but she's like, I'm gonna do it. And I'm going to live my life to the fullest. And I think it's just beautiful because that was definitely a moment in which she could have just stopped, and just stayed at that bar. You know what I mean? And that would have been, boom, the story of Nancy Reed, and that would have been it.
All these years leading up to it, all these moments, so now you got the cast, you got the costumes, you got the money. What are the first moments going into this character like for you?
It was just, it's like any movie starting. Yeah, it was, and I didn't have to do a lot of prep because I had been a big fan for years and years. And I listened to his albums so many times that I literally didn't have to learn any of that stuff to go do any of those. I just knew it, and I had watched this movie so much, so I just jumped in when it was ready.
And then watching it all come together, what was that feeling of here it all is?
At first it was like I was a gratification, that feeling like, wow, this is coming together. And everybody that was involved with the movie, all the producers and writers, we were all like these fans of the director. We were fans. So it was like these guys that are in part of this little cult following were making this movie about this guy that, from the underground, and it was coming together, and it was just, we was loving it. And maybe 2-3 weeks in, I was like, hey, this shit is coming out great. This is coming out good. And I was just happy that it was coming out great for the people in the little Rudy Ray Moore cult. Mm-hmm. For the movie to come together and for it to be received the way it's, and for people that don't even know Rudy Ray Moore to respond the way they have, it's just, I'm over the moon about it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, man.
So John, give us a sense of sort of how you're thinking about it, how you're feeling about it once you get all this together and all these years and all that sort of carrying it through.
I said to Eddie last night, I said, I've never seen this kind of love for a movie before. And I've been doing this for 33 years.
Same here. I've been making movies for I've been making movies longer than you. Is that amazing? Is that possible?
Have you been making longer than me?
Yeah, I've been making movies 38 years, and I've never had a picture that had. Usually, with me in my movies, the ones that got any type of notoriety or anything was just what I did, like my performance, and if I was funny or. And this is across the board. This movie is firing on all cylinders, and I've never been in a movie like that where. It's the direction and the wardrobe and the writing and the cast, and it's just I've never been in a picture. I'd never had a movie be received like this.
As you think about sort of Rudy Ray Moore, what do you think he's thinking about this?
I would think that Rudy Ray Moore would be happy as fuck. I think he would be so happy because we do him justice and we tell his story and it's what happened, and his story is extraordinary, and he would love that people heard his story and thought it was an extraordinary story. He would love that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you and thank the cast and the crew from
man.
Dolemite Is My Name.
Thank you all.
Thank y'all.